What up, y'all? This is your boy Gerald. It is Thursday, September 1st, 2016. How is everybody doing? You're almost at the backside of your week, and I hope wherever you are well. Sidestepping the negative, grounding your feet, but most importantly, speaking your truth. And to do so, you have to make a conscious decision to unconditionally place God first in everything you do. So how's everybody doing? You doing all right? I hope so. I really, really hope so, y'all. So today I am enjoying my day off. But I have to also put out there that this morning when I woke up, I had a little bit of stress in my mind. Because see, I don't know about you, but 2016 has been a pivotal year. There's been a lot of firsts and celebrations, and we've had the Olympics that was in Rio. But all this was swirled together in a sea of non-clarity. There's been a whole lot of pain, a whole lot of unwanted, undeserved loss of life. And it seems that 2016 has become the linchpin. That's right, the linchpin for dialogue that has yet to be addressed. I mean, that means we all sit down. And I believe that there are those who are capitalizing on that because it is very evident that social media has and shall always have a placement in the individual life. Because as we progress as a society, technology is going to continue to take leaps and bounds. Actually, the video you see here, the technology that is used is actually outdated. But what is proposed in the future, this will make what we use today current. I don't care if you just bought that tablet, that notebook, that desktop today. The technology that is being prepared will make that look like we just came from the Stone Ages. But it's only a tool, right? It is nothing but an extension of the individual user, right? So, to properly use this tool, you must have the foundation of what defines you, your perception. Your perceptions make up your character. Those perceptions also are used by way of your personality. So your personality is formed by what you see and the thought that is connected to it. Who am I talking to? Now, the reason why I'm saying this, y'all, because first of all, I have a lot of intelligent, driven, focused people that want nothing more than to be happy. And to accomplish that, that means we have to do the work. We have to roll up our sleeves, proverbially, right? But what if that work falls short? Does the accountability kick in? Does the fortitude reveal itself and become motivation? Or do we allow the things that make up our fears, our doubts, to keep us in a position of delay? Who am I talking to? Now, I'm not trying to go around the mountain, so to speak, because I know some of you have things to do and people to see, and your greatest commodity is your time. But the one thing that I've noticed, and is the motivation of this video, is this right here. How is it in 2016, socially, we are acting as if we are in the 50s? How's that possible? Yes, we can sit up here and say, well, Gerald, it is the injustices of those who supported, those who covertly acted, and the dialogue that was embraced as a mass. This is nothing but the byproduct of hate. And that tree had seeds, and those seeds ended up becoming other, which we know as a forestry or forest or foliage made of denial. But see, I'm a firm believer of this, y'all. As a society, as a community, as an individual, it falls back on the individual, you. See, I already know that you're blessed. The question is, do you know who you are? And if you do know who you are, what are you willing to do to protect it? As we already know, we have people out there that won't do the work, and they are like thieves in the night, and they will gladly take on your persona or your identity to financially make a gain. But we also realize that you reap what you sow, y'all. All things in the dark have to come to the light, because that is the process, the cycle. And I also believe it's divine intervention too, because see, the Most High, the great I am, I know him as God. Just as he gets tired, he also has a sense of humor too. Because see, nothing is wasted, y'all. Nothing. But what is required is for us to be authentic. Have the courage to look at the challenge. There are many people that will do this, but will quickly be the first one out of the situation. Who am I talking to? So this brings me back to this right here. There are a couple movies in my life that will always have a place in my heart. One is the movie adaptation of the Broadway play that was done by Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, Nipsey Russell, known as The Wiz. It was the adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. It just had our color, it had our melanin on it. But when you look at that movie, you can also see a spiritual metaphor throughout. There was a lot of symbolism, y'all. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. That was one thing. Because even in that movie, just to sum it up, it showed the importance of knowing you. But being able to harness what is found inside you. See, you can't do nothing without support of you first. That means you got to sign off on it. So before you can sign off on anything, you got to make a conscious decision to assess. Before you can make the assessment, you must have a place of foundation to analyze. Well, the analyzation comes from where? What you know and what you've been exposed to. And that is why right now, because we live in a social media influence world, there are many people that think that they know that are not. They're clueless. And they take a piece of it and try to manipulate their point, only to misdirect and influence those who are impressionable, those who are seeking, those who are growing. That is why I, from time to time, will always echo to you. I'm trying to talk to you. Do you know who you are? Because if you knew who you are, you would also know one thing. Your existence is priceless. Your story cannot be made up because you're a part of your experience. But more importantly, it is also being viewed and demonstrated because to the spiritual being, that's the person inside you. You may know that as your spirit. To some, they may know that as their consciousness or the little voice inside. That ain't nothing but your spirit. And your spirit is really who you are. Because see, this is nothing. That's why it ages. It is only a requirement needed on this earthly realm. It means nothing without what is inside to guide it. How about that beautiful brain? Huh? How about that beautiful mind? Huh? So, that was one movie. Another movie that influenced me, and some made me laugh, was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Of course, I like the original. Gene Wilder, rest in peace. He just passed away. That movie also had a lot of metaphors in it too, and a lot of spiritual symbolism in it too. And I believe the intended heart and intended mind would see it in the intended time. Sometimes you're going to see things placed right before you and you're not going to understand it. It's like somebody giving you something in a foreign tongue. You don't know what it is. You don't understand it. It's not until the precise time of understanding takes root and takes hold for you to get it. That's what growth is all about, y'all. And there are many others, but the one, well, actually, I have to put these up. The other two that had made an impact on my life, and there are countless ones, to know your future, you must know your past. That's why I make a point that I find myself watching movies and listening to music that were before me. I try to educate myself on the viewpoints, the ideologies, and the understandings that my parents, because guess what? At one time, your parents were you. That's why it's so amazing for my parents. When your child has done something and you have to discipline them and wherever you see fit and how you see fit, as long as you do it, they're so blown away that you can relate and understand, like as if like, okay, poof, now you're the adult and you can't relate to what's going on. But they fail to realize that at one time, That was the same thing you have done. You walked that path so that they could come behind you. That's why we know it as legacy. We also know it as generational curses if it is not blessed. But let's get to the point. The main movie that had a significant influence, actually, there were two. There were three more, but the two for sure was a movie that I would see as I grew up. It seemed every Thanksgiving you would see these two movies be aired. And I know for the black community, it's an institution. It's an iconic landmark through media because Thanksgiving, it was these two movies always played. One was The Imitation of Life, and I'm going to get back to that. The other one was Cooley High, and it talked about a story of a group of friends in the inner city of Chicago during the during the 70s when the gang drug problems were very pandemic, which how ironic, not even 35 years later, everything is coming full circle. You don't hear much about the drug problem in the inner city near you, but you hear about the guns now because they said, well, those drugs will over time, if they decide to continue down that path, they will take their lives. But those firearms, oh yeah, it gets the job done quicker. And what does that do? That ends up curbing population control, but it also steals another blessed experience of someone's life, another dream unfulfilled, another blessing that the world could benefit from, snuffed by the trigger. Now, this is not a rant in regards to gun control because the fact of the matter is responsibility is exactly what it is. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. That is why you don't see this because, see, coming up when I was younger, you didn't have access to a firearm. This was your firearm, but your weapon was always this. Now, the generations that my millennials, you guys are being set up for the clip because what you don't realize is you don't know your story. You don't know your history. How about your family story? Do you know your family tree? Or are you relying on ancestry.com to tell it for you? Who am I talking to? No, this is not a rant. This is out of love because I know the intended heart, the intended mind is going to hear me. Another movie that was also played during the holiday months in the black community. I can't speak on the others because I can't reference. I don't know. But I know definitely it was always, and now that I'm thinking about it, because nothing happens by chance, y'all. There's always a reason and a meaning for everything because God doesn't waste anything. But keep in mind, the devil's work is never done, too. The away team's got to keep the playing field at a slant. Otherwise, truth would show you exactly what you need so you can go to it. That's why life seems at times can be very hard, can be a struggle. Because guess what? The devil already knows your story. He knew it the moment you took your first breath because your legacy was already written. So guess what? He'd already declared a spiritual war against your life. Why? Because he knows who you're going to be destined to be, and he cannot afford that. So of course he's going to bring that person into your life to distract you from you. Of course he's going to he's going to manipulate the environment of maybe where you were reared and the abuse and the hardships that came from. Of course. Why? Because he's trying to go after your mind. Because if your mind's not right, your body's not going to go. Your body's not going to grow right. Where the mind goes, the body flows, right? Hmm? You don't hear people talking about I knocked him out through his shoulder. They go for the headshot. Why? Because they know where the head goes, the body's going to flow. Why? Because that is your navigation, y'all, by way of your spirit. So the other movie was a movie called The Learning Tree. And it was about a little boy that lived in the South during uh, the early 40s, 50s. So, they were sharecroppers per se. So, and he was around a group of friends. He was three of them. And the experience he went through uh, dealing with racism, as well as dealing with understanding friendships and how the value of those choices impacted his development. And the character was about 13, 14 years old. So he's at that position of being impressionable as a young man. But the good thing was he had male influence in his development that held him accountable. He wasn't wayward because he knew that if he chose to be wayward, that would not only get him in trouble, but he would be accountable for his actions. And more importantly, he didn't want to disappoint his elders, the men in his life. He didn't want that. He didn't want them to see him in a level of disrespect. That's why he was respectful. That's why if there was something he didn't understand, he was humble and he asked. But the devil's work is never done. And through that story, he went through some trials and tribulations. I'm not going to steal it from you, but I will say if you ever got time, I highly recommend that you check out The Learning Tree. You'll also, The Imitation of Life, The Wiz, Cooley High. Those four right there, they all have great stories. And they are all relevant today, especially today in our society. But let's go back to Imitation of Life. Imitation of Life, for me, will always have the heaviest influence for a couple reasons. For a couple reasons. Let me just turn this down, y'all, because I want you to be able to hear me. And while I'm thinking about that, that's what I was afraid of. I'm adjusting the volume so that you should be able to hear me better now. So whenever you find this video, when God guides you to sit down and check me out, which first and foremost, there is no words that I can convey my gratefulness, but it can be repaid by your blessings. Because see, your life is blessed. You are supposed to live in happiness. You are supposed to be the epitome of knowing what the word freedom is. See, freedom is nothing but a state of mind. You can't be free unless you have inner peace. But before you can have inner peace, guess what? You got to know who you are. So that's why I say, do you know who you are? And I say this out of love because there's a lot of people that unfortunately will go through life who will never have a clue of who they really are. And this brings me back to why I pointed out the movie Imitation of Life. Because Imitation of Life had so many social commentaries through the story. But even more so, it's prevalent today. And it's very disappointing because as advanced as we are as a society technologically, we haven't grown as a community, as a society, as a people, as an individual. And that's why I believe an opportunist does not need your help to expose themselves. But what is required is that you have the courage to take in what you are witnessing. Because even in disappointment, there's a blessing there. Did you hear what I said? I said, even in disappointment, there's a blessing there. All you are required to do is to be still, be whole, and allow what is being shown to gain the insight from it. That will be your wisdom in the intended time. Now, now that I got that out of the way, I'm flirting with the idea. Well, I'm flirting if I should drop the disclaimer now. Because when I say disclaimer, that means Gerald is going to say what is needed to be said to the intended heart, the intended mind, because you deserve it. So I'm going to try very, very hard not to make this video to the left in regards to my language. I may say some things that you may find offensive. I'm going to try real hard not to. But you have to reach everybody where they are. See, if you don't rock bottom, you'll never be able to stand up. You will never be able to set your sights to where you should have been the whole time. And I can't allow you to do that. I can't. But guess what? We all have free will, right? We also have the gift to unconditionally love ourselves. And that's the problem what's going on right now, because there's a lot of people that are choosing to walk in their pain, to embrace their denial, to celebrate their resentment, as well as wear their fear as a shield. These people don't take accountability. You know, that's why you would hear people say, well, you know, if you don't have a solution, you're part of the problem. That's true. But if you don't invest in yourself, you can't even have a position to have a solution. You can't. Because it starts with each person. Each one teach one is what they said. So let's go with why I singled out this classic movie called Imitation of Life. I highly recommend, if you have the time, to please, if you've got Fios or whoever your cable carrier may be, you may be able to find it through I think was it AMC. I think that whoever the classic cable network is, I think that's AMC, and go in your on demand selection. You may find it there, but if not, I'm pretty sure if you just go up in your search engine right here, put Imitation of Life, you should be able to watch it. You should be able to watch it. I know Hulu's got it, but sit down, watch the movie. It's got a beautiful story, but you'll see everything that's played out in that movie, how relevant it is today. Only thing that's different is the timestamp. Now let's go in a little bit. Why is social media the social platform for everybody that wants to rant? Why is it that we want to wave the flag of First Amendment? I have a right to my opinion, but we quickly want to smash someone who has a viewpoint unlike yourselves. I remember when learning in my early education, when you learned how to debate, the one thing is you would have all these points from both pro and con, and if you could not come to a viable point to sway your opinion, you could agree to disagree. And that's what's going on now. There's been such a sway when it comes to what has become. Well, let's backtrack that. The problem with us as a society, we have become too PC. We've become too tactful. Now, first of all, you don't if you've invested in communicational skills, your skill set, your vocabulary, your comprehension. How about being able to critically think? The first thing you're not going to do is allow yourself to put yourself in a bad light. And even if you should, have the humility to correct yourself. But see, haven't you noticed? It doesn't matter who your maybe your channel or the person that you have listed over here with your subscriptions. Not everybody's going to have the point of view you're going to agree with. But what I've noticed now, we've become as a society so cutthroat, so vile, so opportunistic, but yet nobody's speaking solution. We're speaking separation. We're not, no one's talking about loving yourselves individually. And you know what's happening? All those people that did not have those personality traits to begin with, guess what? They're ushering in your division. They're the reasons why our society is the way it is. By using collegiate vocabulary to blur the lines. I'll give you a prime example. You remember during the Olympics, and I think it's his name, Ryan Lochte, and the whole thing with the men's swim team, and he came out with his account of what occurred. To come to find out that was furthest from the truth. It was a lie. The journalism that was done was made to make him look like a victim, right? But when it came out that he had indeed blatantly lied to justify what they reported, they said this: oh, he softened the truth. Well, isn't softening anything? That means it can't stand on its own merits. So he lied. Now, that's not the point I'm trying to make collectively. I'm not. I'm just using that as an example because we are so splintered as a society. I ain't got to tell you that. You're going to like things that you like. You're going to be appealing to things and people and the way they come across. But if it doesn't make you grow, why are you giving them your attention? Why? Hmm? Why is it that it seems the things that should matter, the things that should be paramount in your life, the things that should be priority number one, nobody talks about that. Everybody wants to take a path of, and it's a general statement because I don't know everybody, but I'm just saying, it just seems we want to take the road that's been traveled upon, not be courageous and take the road less traveled and speak on things that matter. Why is it that we're not putting focus on the things that will affect the generations to come? What about our babies? Huh? What about those little black boys that don't have their dads? How about the dads that want to be in their lives but can't because the mom is traumatized and she's using the child as a weapon to not only impact the psyche of the child but to cripple the empowerment of the father? Why aren't we not talking about that? Hmm? Why is it the fact that we are one of the most richest nations in the world, but we have poverty? Here's one thing that clicked in my mind the other day. I spoke on it kind of briefly. Your lottery. I play it. Some of y'all play it. Now, the lottery mission statement off the bat was the money is to generate for schools, education, and public roads, right? Well, I can remember last year, if I'm correct, I know at least once there was almost $1 billion to be won. I think it happened twice. Now, before you can even pay that out as a reward for having your lottery number, you've got to earn the money first to generate to pay it off. That means so theoretically, $2 billion in lottery revenue. So if we're able to bang the gong for this potential pot of gold, shouldn't that tell us at a minimum every school, every road should be as it needs to be? Not one student should lack the tools to educate themselves. How about those programs for those children that require more nurturement? Hmm? What about that? How about the educators? You know, the people that spend more time with your children than you. What about them? Why are they still underpaid? They're the ones that make up more than 70% of the perception of your child. And what's going on now? You have those same people that have platforms. Instead of trying to uplift it and bring awareness to what needs to be focused on, we're going to turn around and focus on things that don't matter. We're too busy worrying about what she had on, how we going to act like her and emulate her. Don't you realize there's only one you? Do you realize that person in the mirror is so beautiful, so priceless? But the reflection is what will come if of what you choose to invest in. So does it surprise you nowadays that queens, no, let me backtrack. Women, because queens don't do that. Because see, a queen loves herself. And I say that as a term of endearment because I don't know you directly, but I'm still rooting for you. But see, you have people that have platforms that want to make you the anomaly. They want to make you the uh, exception to the rule. You have those that say, well, you know what? Here's the disclaimer. I got to kick it in. You have those that want to say, well, black men ain't shit. Black women ain't shit. Black kids ain't shit. And use every descriptive word to describe the tone. I don't care if we were red, pink, blue, yellow, green, whatever. We're still part of the human race. But that's the problem. People are focused on the race. Why are you running so fast through your life? Why are you running away from your problems? Why are you too busy focusing on things that don't have merit? Why are you allowing people to have access to your life? Why are you allowing people to walk with you that should not hear you breathe? Because deep down inside, all people want validation of their existence. They want to be loved. They want to be celebrated. They want to grow. They want to be empowered. But guess what? See, that opportunists will not have none of that. They will use all the tools and ideologies they can to convince you to stop. You're not good enough unless you add this. You can't get there unless you walk with them. You can't have that unless you are doing this. The person that you need to have that conversation with is God. But it does not start until you have that conversation with that beautiful person that's in the mirror. That's the person that you owe everything to. Let me make that perfectly clear. The person that sees you when you're brushing your pearly whites, wiping the crust out your eyes, washing your backside. That's the person that you owe it to. So if you can't have that dialogue and that connection with yourself by having that conversation with God, guess what? Everything and anything that will be in your life will be a representation of what's found inside you. Who am I talking to? You think you're supposed to be sitting over there trying to weigh if you're going to get high today or you're going to go mess with that stolen moment? Don't you realize every time you take shortcuts, you cut your life short? It plays every day. I don't have to remind you, just turn on your news. You always hear people say, I want justice, Gerald. But you're not willing to work for justice. We're quick to point the finger. He did, Gerald. But fail to look at the other four pointing back. Who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? You actually think that your life is supposed to be the kept woman? You know the blessing of the kept woman? There is none. And all you do is receive the trinkets and hand-me-downs based off of your self-worth or lack thereof. I say this because I'm tired of watching my women as a collective. Ain't nothing worse than watching a woman, to look at a woman and she's lost her smile. Haven't you noticed a woman that smiles has a glow? Mm-hmm. Because she's at peace. And see, nobody can do that for you. You have to do the work yourself. So let's go back to that movie I indicated called Imitation of Life, because there is some foundation on why I'm bringing this up. Now more than ever, y'all, you are witnessing in our society a covert attempt for you to divorce yourself. That movie was based off of two perspectives. One was of a black woman who was a housekeeper, and the other was a white woman that had been divorced, who had a daughter. The housekeeper had a daughter. The housekeeper, I can't think of the actress's name, but she should have gotten an Oscar for that role. And she had a daughter that was fair-skinned. She was very fair-skinned. She could have passed, and that was actually something that occurred back in the 50s and the 60s, and that's why you've got the term mulatto, octroon, quadroon, because pretty much the melanated trait, there was somebody in that family that the byproduct of biracial children. Well, during the times of segregation, you had some that said, well, you know what? I may be educated, but I'll never have the opportunity. So I'm going to turn around and come up with a different persona of who I am. Kind of what Esau did in the Bible. And people chose to use the dialect of, well, I'm Spanish, I'm Italian. Come up with anything else but black. And this is not about black and white. I'm making this as a point. Well, guess what? Even though those people that chose to do that gained access of financial status. That's why you have the boule. and a lot of splintered, and all these are all splintered cells, uh, social opportunities. Because look at your top 10% of black wealth. You'll notice that they're very fair skinned and they have forgotten their culture. And actually, anything related to reminder of who you really are, they denounce. Those you may know them as that term of being bougie. He got his nose up in the air. He think he better than us. How many of y'all remember the Inkwell? Remember the movie? You remember the role that Glenn Turman played, the father that lived out in the Inkwell when Drew went out there to visit, and the whole dynamic of the upper middle class and the lower middle class, and how the two dynamics were different, but they both were black. There's a reason for that. So let's go back to Imitation of Life. Well, the character that played the housekeeper's uh, role, the daughter that played that role, was actually played by the actress Natalie Wood. They couldn't find an actress to fit the part in Hollywood's standpoint, even though they could have. You had Dorothy Dandridge. I mean, they wanted somebody that convincingly so could look biracial, but they chose Natalie Wood. But the storyline was the daughter loved the opportunities that the the mother, the divorcee, was bestowing on her daughter, and they were best friends. They grew up together, and so even though she was trying to raise her daughter to be non-biased, the reality was you were dealing with a social divide. And as the housekeeper's daughter, played by Natalie Wood, would mature into her teens, that is the most pivotal time of a woman and a young guy. When you hit 12, 13 years old, you've already got your mind. Now everything's about adding on to the knowledge that or experiences that you have. That's why you have that spiritual divide. That's why some people go left instead of going right. Well, her character played the role of the racist, and she gave her mother hell. She gave her poor mother hell. And no matter what, her mom loved her daughter. This is the housekeeper. She loved her. She made sure that she didn't want for anything. But because the bond that the housekeeper had with the divorcee was so tight, it was a collective. But what was ironic was there was no man there. So it was very emotional in that setting until one day a man walked in, and he was a lawyer, and the divorcee was very smitten over him, very smitten. But even with his character, things would occur in the end indirectly. Now, I don't want to steal the thunder of the movie. I'll be very surprised if you don't shed a tear. But that movie is very relevant today in 2016 because you have a lot of people that have so deep rooted denial about who the person in the mirror really is. There's a conflict with the person that you step out in the world to be. So you basically are putting a mask on. That's why you hear the reference of fake it to make it. But don't you realize the people that choose to fake it to make it end up losing it all in the end? This occurs because it was never blessed. This occurs because the devil sets you up for the clip. We are what we attract. Energy out is energy received. everything full circle comes back. That's why the worst abomination that you could ever do is deny yourself for how you feel. How about choose to hold on to a lie? How about hold on to some secrets? How about make a declaration to not love you? Does it surprise you the people that walk through your door or enter your life do the same? See, that's all God do. So God ain't out here to punish you. You're his child. He created you. But until you have the courage to roll your sleeves up, do the work, how about allow yourself to fall back in love with you? How about heal? See, most people always say, yeah, you heal, you process, you keep it moving. But guess what? Did you learn the lesson? Because if you learned the lesson, guess what? You ain't got to move on because you've grown. You graduated through the experience. That experience gained insight and wisdom to help you further on. So what's going on now, y'all? You look at social media is such it's such a farce because you got little girls willfully self-exploiting themselves. You have seasoned women emulating what they're doing. So what's going on now? You have a division between the younger and the older woman because the older woman is not educating the young. So guess what? Perpetually, the same problems that were never mastered have now become a generational curse. Who am I talking to? You saw what your aunts were doing. You said to yourself, I'll never be like them. But guess what? The reality is you're in the reality. You got to know what God was not in that. That was free will. The reality was ushered in by the devil. How about that Jezebel spirit? Do you realize what's going on socially? There's a campaign, Queens, to get you to a point that you feel so empowered that you will pretty much denounce being able to be a mother. Who's that benefit? They try to tell you, no, it's your life, it's your body. Do whatever you want. But here's what's funny about that. Why do we overlook this part? You conceive and you know you're pregnant. The same people that say it's my body, it's my choice. It's not your body because your child's in there. So no, that stopped. So what happened? What happened right there? Huh? But see, society wants you. So well, if you ain't ready, have an abortion. Who benefits out for that? I'll tell you who benefits that. All that scientific research. They've got to have something to research off of. Do you not see the connection? We've already seen video of them, Planned Parenthood, saying, "Hey, basically, we sell the unborn for profit." Okay, let's go pros and cons. You have also people will say, "Well, you know what, Gerald? This for stem cell research and stuff like that, and you know." That's why organ donation is required because, there are people that they need it. That's why we push it every time you get a new driver's license because we're going to farm you too. Okay. Okay. They want you to believe that. So basically, they've already put a price tag on your life. You ain't even lived it yet. I cannot stress this, y'all, and I don't want to be winded. I know I've been on here for a minute. But no one's going to give a damn about you until you decide to give a damn about yourself. If you are tired of feeling like you're on the bottom of someone's boot, you're on the bottom of it, you're the only one that can get from under that. And the key to unlock that is you speaking your truth. If you can't be honest with your feelings first, how can you express them? That's why when you try to have that heart to heart with someone, they may automatically try to change the channel or shut you down because they know the truth is coming. But also, what is being revealed to you right now that you don't know is that is also showing you that they have yet to master that obstacle. That's why misery loves company, y'all, because you got to have an ideology or a commonality to have company. That's not the table you're supposed to sit on. That's why you also are seeing the veil being pulled back, and you're not seeing anybody be proactive in regards to combating the mortality uh, death rate in our children. I wish if I had thought I could gotten a stat because thousands and thousands of children are dying every day. You do understand that, right? So if thousands and thousands of children are dying every day, well, guess what? That's somebody's mother. That's someone's father. That's another part of your lineage or heritage that will never be. That is another story never known. That is another blessing being delayed by the devil. How about that, Jezebel spirit? And I feel this in my heart right now for somebody. I got this feeling somebody's wrestling with things or somebody from your past. There is somebody that seemed like they literally came out the closet of your where you live and like surprise, here I am, I'm back. Blink, blink, blink. And you're trying to wrestle with the fact of what they've said or done compared to time. Well, guys, I've had to learn this, especially in the last 10 years. And it echoes what Maya Angelou said all along. When a person shows you who they are, it's your responsibility to believe that. Doesn't matter what they possess, who they know. That's character. So if they don't have any character, they can never see your worth. And if they can't see your worth, what makes you think that you are able to grow with them? But more pain, more denial. And this is a choice. Because, see, people can change every day. That's what free will is. Should I go left or should I go right? Should I go forward or should I stand still? So let's go back real quick. This is why we are seeing what we're seeing. Perfect. Because we're all family, y'all. We really are. And what I find is funny because people will still try to overlook this fact, and I'm gonna throw this out. And I'm gonna keep it moving. We've already scientifically proven that man, society, civilization was identified in Africa. Okay, so if the first man was identified there, the first civilization was identified there, does it surprise you why the Bible or any doctrine you wish to follow all say the same thing but different variables of expression that we were created in his image? So if I look like me, then I am a representation of you. You will also come to understand that anytime that you take a person of Nubian descent and generate or well conceive a child, that child will have the traits of that melanin. That's why you always see biracial children have strong features of the mother or the father that was melanated. But the ironic part is this: the opposites occur because when you have two people with the recessive gene trait or lack thereof melon, if you constantly do the cycle, the melanated presence is diluted even more. In other words, remember when they, I don't know if it was Kung Fu or it's on media, but it was called uh, the ink test or something. It was like where I can't remember exactly where I saw it, where someone, it was in a movie or something. They took a glass of water as symbolism, and they said, if I take a glass, maybe it was Malcolm X. He said, if I take this glass and I drop a drop of ink in it, is the water undrinkable? What they was referencing is this: the glass is not full, it's not half empty, or But what they was trying to show is anytime you use, that's why when the color black, you bounce it off of any color with black, what you get, the darkness lightens up. It absorbs it. Why? Because we're his children. I also realized that the Tower of Babel also is a correlation of why we have different nationalities and cultures. Because if you look at the map, take any map, just look at it. Why does it all seven continents look like a puzzle at one time together? Because at one time it was. And due to continental plates shifting, that made separation, as well as environment caused the polar caps to hide some land. That's why you can find some areas where, I know definitely a good example of that is Thailand. There are uh, artifacts of shrines submerged. There's a lake, I think in Malaysia, where at one time the elevation, there was an actual castle, and over time it was submerged. It's also in Scotland, the same effect. And I actually really believe that was nothing but a watered down example of what God did with the Great Flood because of all the abomination that was going on. And, God gets tired. There at one time, hey, fallen angels came here, and that's why we have knowledge, what we do. And those angels, which were connected to Satan, Lucifer, uh, that's why they call him the day star. Well, guess what? They had sights and wonders too. Why? Because they were connected to God. So Satan being the number one angel, the most beautiful one at that, you think that they were not going to, some of the angels were smitten over the women. They slept with them. And those bear children that, first of all, you cross the line because angels ain't supposed to have kids. They're supposed to have children. We may know them as the Nephilim. Do research, it's there. I highly recommend that you study. But if not on a historical aspect, your greatest education is going to be your life. What you need to look at or the perception that you need to take upon is this: the people you're connected to are your extensions, may it be by blood or bone or by association, by spirit. If they do not represent your highest good, highest empowerment, why you allow them to have access to your life? If you're going through a cycle of non-communication and there's a tug of war going on, you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, why are you dealing? I'm not asking you to walk away from the situation. I'm asking you to be authentic, because no one can make you do anything you don't want to do. Just like Queens, I always say, it doesn't matter what a man possesses if he doesn't have a relationship with God first, because everything that is attained by man's hands is temporary. So if he doesn't have a foundation with God first, he's going to lose everything that he's possessed because it wasn't blessed to begin with. You know one thing that a man can't do? He doesn't have the power to open your legs. Who am I talking? That's why God told you to be still, Queen, because he gave you the greatest gift you could have. He called you woman. He gave you the title of mother. He also gave you the gift of being the nurturer. That's why everybody loves mama. But what if mama don't love herself? Those effects are going to be played out through the generations that come from her or come through her. Because see, let's call it spade a spade. A woman cannot make a child. You sustain a child. You can't make one. And I know I had somebody say, well, Gerald, I can go to a sperm bank. Yeah, you could. But you're producing a child that was not made of love. So it doesn't surprise you that you're going through the hell you're going through. But you'll really go through the hell when that child becomes aware of themselves and wants to know their history. And that's the problem that's going on in 2016 today. We don't know our history. So does it surprise you? A lot of people don't know where they're going because they refuse to ground their feet. They're terrified. You're terrified to look inside you to see how beautiful you are, but you let him look inside you whenever to bring pain. Why is that? I'll tell you why that occurs. It occurs because people do not want to do the work, nor they do want to take accountability. And it's easier to run away than stand your ground. That's what standing your ground really is. You stand your ground from the inside of who you are, because we're talking your character. What really makes you? So let's look at it this way. Does it make sense now when I say, do you know who you are? So if you don't know who you are, how are you going to make the decisions that you're going to need down the road? So that should also give you a little side eye and look at the people that you got access in your life. Because guess what? They're basing it off the mindset you have today. And that's the reason why they keep on going. That's why they come into your life in more ways than one, and they leave like a thief in the night. Why? Because they don't see you as forever. They don't see you as tomorrow. And that is why so many of you are hurting inside. Because one of your greatest gifts you're going to get is the ability to take on someone else's last name, someone else's legacy. See, if that's not a spiritual man, you in hell. You think you supposed to be living the way you living, in the conditions you live in? All you want to do is be happy. You know you can't buy happiness, right? Doesn't matter how many Carnival cruise rides you go on, how many trips you go on. You give all that up just to have a peace of mind. Now, wouldn't you? How about a good night's sleep? How about another night without no argument? Who am I talking to? You deserve all those things. How about the edification of being loved, because the person that loves you loves God, and they are your best friend because they already know the responsibility of protecting your heart. How about ushering in the other side of your life. How about that? So does it surprise you, social media, you have so many people out here that will never have the courage to admit, hey, you know what, I've been hurt. You know what, I've been in a lot of pain. And that's the reason why I spit what I spit. And that's the reason why I'm standing where I am. So yeah, I'm going to be covert about it. Yeah, I'm going to say these things that are vile that make you scratch your head or maybe want to go around my throat. But you're doing it because you have an audience. You're doing it because you're making money. Which is really funny when you think about it, because I wonder this. Would you still have the same disposition if that person or your audience was able to have access to you? Do you not take in accountability that you are seen all over the world? There are people that come to you for two reasons: to be empowered, to be educated. And if it's positive, guess what comes out of it? Instantly, love, respect, consideration, honor. But you have people in this world that want to follow the road of the opportunists. I don't want to do all the work. I just want to benefit from it. And does it surprise you when that truck, that spiritual truck, comes out of nowhere and slaps you on your butt, leaving you there to pick up the pieces? You feeling what you're feeling. And you know why you're feeling what you're feeling? Because you refuse not to own your pain. You know why we go through pain, y'all? We go through pain for two reasons. One, to convince the ones that have given up to stay there. And for two, the others to go through it, to let you know that there is something better. But you can't have that unless you have that conversation with God first, because he loves you so much. He loves you. But see, you want somebody to paint this picture that I've got daffodils and blue skies and everything is okay. Well, guess what? This is this thing called life. And that's why you are the cultivator of it. Your legacy is already written. Your story's already written, y'all. But see, if you don't cultivate your reality, your perception, you might miss something beautiful. How about that person in the mirror saying, when you gonna love me? When you gonna come back home? Why are you putting me at risk at all hours of the night for thrill seeking? Don't you know that you can never get high enough? But here's the thing that blows my mind, and I don't understand, and I've talked too much. You do understand the actions of today will impact your tomorrow, right? So if you're getting zooted on cloud nine, don't you realize if you're blessed to see another 20 years, you're going to feel those effects? So you setting up the doctors that they ain't even gone to school yet. You setting their pensions up because they're going to be the ones trying to keep you straight. For those who are enslaved in those prescriptions, let me tell you something. The moment that you decide to love yourself, allow that clarity to kick in, guess what's going to happen? Your body has a way of healing itself. That's why there's no money in cures. There's money in sustainment. Maybe some of the problems that you're going through need to be worked out, but they can't be worked out unless you look at them. If you're too busy worrying about why Johnny won't love you, Johnny doesn't love you because Johnny don't love himself. And Johnny probably doesn't love himself because he had an environment that did not love him. Maybe because he was a constant reminder of a decision that was left abandoned. See, we got to take accountability, y'all, because we're impacting the generations that ain't even born yet. They're going to be the ones that are going to inherit it. But that's for somebody right here. Reality, he don't. You know why? Because the blessed one is a spiritual man or woman. So guess what? God asked you to prepare. That's why he made you the nurturer. He made you the nurturer. You're going to be that rock. You're going to be that anchor. That's why two people that are going in two different directions individually can't go forward. How about your finances? You doing all the damn work and they sitting down there. Can you move out the way? Nah. Why are you settling? That's why I tell you, queens, ain't no future in no bad boys. Key word, bad. Root word, boy. But see, my young ones, my young princesses out there. See, society wants you to burn your candles, queen. Yes, they do. They want you to turn around and willfully defile your body. That's why you have so many women that are at risk with fibroids, ovarian cysts. How about STDs? How about hepatitis A and C? How about AIDS? AIDS ain't cured, y'all. But is there a cure for it? You're damn right it is. It's found in the earth. God gave us that in the scriptures. Everything man needs was already given. But if you don't ground your feet, you can't see it, even if it's in front of your face. So meanwhile, while you're turning around and watching what your girlfriend's doing, she's sabotaging you too. Because misery loves company. Your stick man, he ain't going nowhere because he don't want you to go nowhere. That's why every time when you look at your dream and you want to embrace it, they the first one to talk you out of it. Who am I talking about? You know you're supposed to be studying for that test, but they're going to call you and say, you want to go out? Why? Because they don't respect your dream. Hmm? Yes. So I'm going to bring this home. Just know I love each and every one of you. And I want you to be happy. But you can't be happy unless you're authentic first. You gotta foster those dreams. What about them gifts you were given the moment you took your first breath? Why don't you spend time loving you? Who's keeping you in the house? Maybe there's some hobbies that it's time that you knocked the dust off and got back into it because it gave you joy. What about that? You stuffed them away because your environment say that's corny? Nah, they're corny and they don't deserve to hear you breathe. Because the people that love you unconditionally, they're going to support you. You know why they're going to support you? Because they love to see you smile. They want the best for you. And maybe that's the reason they ain't in your life now, because they're not going to watch you put yourself in a coffin. They're not going to watch you disrespect yourself. They're not going to lie to you. But they're praying for you. They want you to have the courage to make it through. And if it's divinely meant, you'll see them again. Because trust and believe, don't you realize what's seeing? You realize what you're seeing? That's why you're seeing all those other people come back in your life. Why? Because they want to turn around and do what they didn't fulfill the first time. They want to make sure it sticks this time because they see that you're growing and they are standing still. Some could be remorse. Some could be regret. Could be. But guess what? You don't go off of what someone says. You go off their actions. And if they don't love themselves, how can they love you? And since they can't love you, why are you giving them time? Who am I talking to? So, my queens, there are thousands and thousands of how to make you look beautiful. Guess what? While you're clicking on them, you need to click on you and look in that mirror. How about next time you step out of that shower for your drive, just look at yourself and just say, God did that. That's all. That's that gift God gave you. Every imperfection, every flaw, because there's only one you. That goes for you too, King. You might be. I got this feeling somebody's sitting in the cut, and you're low. You got low self-esteem because you worried about your weight. You might put on 50, 60 pounds. Well, it don't matter. It took time to put it on. Love yourself more and take it off. And while you're taking that off and you're stepping close to yourself, you need to also take off them people that weren't supporting you either. It's okay to shut the door to your life for a while. It's okay. Because guess what? We teach people how to be treated. We do. But what we lack is how they sustain it. See, one thing I've also learned is this. You can't kill love. You can't. Because that's an extension of God. God is love. And all it does is transforms. That's why when you have those issues with that person over there and y'all like all button heads, especially y'all dealing with the case of the ex, you do understand that bad behavior is really love misdirected and they lack communication skills on how they express it. I'll give you a vision. You know how, because it's always everywhere. Typical scenario when you see a young woman and she takes it upon herself to vandalize the guy's stuff, whatever, right? She out there busting the windows, slashing the tires, defacing her property, right? But the first thing that got defaced was her self-respect because she put herself out there. The second thing that got defaced was her self-worth. But the third thing that occurred was this, very apparent. See, when a person don't give a damn about you, they're not going to waste their time. So what you're seeing indirectly, covertly, is that person still, them feelings is still alive. Oh, did you get it? So if they beefing with you, it's because there's still no closure. That means there are conversations that have to come to pass. But you can't say I'm a grown individual if you don't convey it. That means you have to be real with yourself. You got plenty of energy to say what you would say and what you would do. Well, guess what? God just gave you he opened that door. Here you go. Boom. There they are. Now, what was that you were so passionate about what you was going to say and do? You notice those people never do anything. They the first one. You hear nothing but crickets. Why? Because that's love misdirected. That's love they should have been giving themselves the whole time. And that tantrum that you're hearing, it might be somebody that may give you the silent treatment. And they know that may irk you. Listen here. Respect it. Respect it. Just respect it. Because what you might not know is that person may be finally in a place of awakening. And they say, you know what? I don't like where I've been. I've got to change it. And I just need to focus on me. But if it's intended, guess what? No, don't worry. You'll see him again. If the exes that didn't treat you right have the ability to come back in your life, who's to say the ones that were blessed won't do the same? That's why people are either one or two. They're your lesson or your blessing. It just depends on your perception and how you have your feet grounded to see it. God is praying for you. You know I am. I see your worth. And for that, it helps me discern mine. But keep this in mind, y'all. You see, it's easy to have a platform on social media and being negative, and then you be, passive aggressive. And some people know that as shade. Well, guess what? Perfect song. Perfect song. Perfect song. See these people right here? You dealing with them exes? This is validation for somebody. See, if you didn't matter, they wouldn't come back. Hmm? And yes, It doesn't matter if they're married or not. You'll notice that I've learned that too. I've seen people married, move to Botswana. If you treat them right, they never forget because you represent love. But right now, you're seeing the negative of it, and it's trying to sway you to think just like them. And you can't do that. So it's very important you see your worth, y'all. You need to stop running from yourself. Stop listening to people in the cheap seats because there's a lot of people in the cheap seats that want you to be miserable just like them. And they use this as a platform to spew their hatred. But what you're really seeing is deep down inside, they have insecurities. They have wounds that have yet to be healed. And the worst thing you can do is go through life with that luggage. Why do you think Erica Badu wrote the song Bag Lady? Because there's a lot of women walking around with burdens, just as there are just as many men. That's why you see it in the eyes, y'all. The Root Boys was talking about that. It's written on your face because, see, the eyes are the window to the soul. And it ain't nothing more blessed to look inside somebody and see how beautiful they are. You have a blessed day, y'all. Like, subscribe, but more importantly, you be you.